Sweet, and we are live. I'll give everyone a few minutes to jump in. Cool, that's come through.
Well, that's trippy. Twitch like reverses everything.
Does it?
Yeah, I got dual screen as well, so like you can see me looking at me twice.
and Twitch is behind the stream time as well by a couple of seconds just to really throw you off.
It's like those horror movies where the reflection like moves separately from the person looking into it. Do we just sit awkwardly in silence until people join?
Yeah, we'll give it a minute or so.
Yeah. Oh, I should have come up with an anecdote to fill in the time.
Give us an interesting Laserforce story, Steve.
Ooh, there was this one time I got 16 medikits in a game.
Yeah, but that's because the enemy heavy. It was a complete numpty and died out real fast.
Interesting Laserforce anecdote. Man, I got so many, but like a lot of them aren't appropriate for like public consumption. Yeah.
What's your favorite and least favorite aspect of Space Marines 5?
Anytime that I can like go on a tear as heavy and like go and just kill everyone, I love that. I love it so much. And then anytime that we play Brisbane A is awful. No. Getting stomped sucks, especially like in the early days of like competitive Auckland laser tag or Space Marines. We got stomped by everyone. And you know, when you go to a competition, and I know that, you know, most people have been there before, when you go to, except maybe Rusty, when you go to a competition and your expectation is that you're going to, you know, play your hardest and hopefully you get a win, but you have a good time. You're at a site for, you know, 10 hours and you got your ass whipped all day, and then you got to go home and get up early and do it all again the next day. Like, that stuff is a little bit average. But, you know, as I've said many times, when you have like a good social element to a tournament, it makes all that stuff not so bad. Like, if you can go home and smash, you know, a dozen beers with the guys from Melbourne or whatever, that stuff, it kind of makes, you know, playing like shit kind of worth it.
Yeah. Yeah, community is definitely probably one of my favorite aspects of Laserforce, and it feels laboured to call it a family because it feels like such a cliche term to use, but it's really hard to get away from that being an accurate summation of what the Laserforce community is. It's it feels like such a supportive and family environment that it's more than just people you play competitive laser tag with. They're actually like kind of part of your world.
Yeah, it's such a weird thing because like I have some really deep friendships that have come from this game, and it's with people who I see every few years. Like I might I love the boys from Melbourne. Like, some of my favorite people, and we did a Zoom chat like during the pandemic. We've had a couple now actually, and it's like, it's so awesome. Even just to talk to them over Zoom, it's been brilliant. And so, like, you know, if you can develop some friendships like that, like whether it's guys from overseas or people at your own site, like it's awesome. And like, because I've been playing for so long, most of my adult life, most of the significant things in my adult life have some connection to Laserforce, with the exception of my wife. She's just like, no thanks, no. Hard pass. But yeah, like, yeah, it's crazy. This game, yeah, is so ingrained in so many aspects of my life. Like, yeah, it's been awesome, which is probably the reason why not being able to play for a couple months, boohoo, has been so hard, and like why I would imagine for guys in Sacramento or
you gotta feel for them.
Yeah,
or fans stuck out in the middle of Texas.
I mean, he could drive. He's got one like 2 hours away. It's not that far. Yeah, but like they've had to do it twice, I think.
Right.
They've had like two periods in their existence where like Laserforce went away for years. That sounds awful.
Yeah, that's awful.
Yeah. We've only had to do it like sort of once. Like we had a hiatus for a while. When I think it was after like Virus moved away. Like a bunch of people either moved away or like, got kids or whatever. And it wasn't actually until I think you started and like, were really motivated. You're like, oh, I heard about this rad thing from my coworker Sneak.
Yeah.
And it was, I think, when you messaged the crew and were like, hey, do you guys still play? Like, I'd be really keen to come down and play. And we were like, all right, fuck yeah, let's play. We haven't played for like, a year, maybe, or regularly for a year. Something like that. I don't know. But yeah, it sucks not playing. Yeah. That's the worst part of Laserforce, is not playing Laserforce. Yeah.
We'll be back this soon enough, I'm sure.
I fucking hope so, man. This is...
All right, well, looks like there's a few people joined the stream, so we'll kick this one off.
What up, Twitch?
Yeah. So, yes, welcome back, as rather stuttered introduction to this week's live stream. My guest this week doesn't really need an introduction. He's probably one of the most well-known members of the international community. So, yeah, I don't need to introduce you guys to Steve, a.k.a. GuyNextDoor. So, officially, good morning and welcome to the stream.
Thanks, man. I've been enjoying the last couple you've done. They've been good.
That's good.
Yeah.
Good to hear you enjoying. So we'll just start with kind of the elephant in the room, I guess. Which is I'm not gonna call it a cancellation or a postponement. What I'm going to say is that Nats won't be taking place in Auckland in 2020 because we don't know what the future is going to bring. We don't know what 2021 will bring. We hold hope that Auckland will host in 2021, but we know that we aren't hosting in 2020. And I think on behalf of both of us, we're absolutely gutted that is what it is. But it's a situation that we can't control. And, I think common sense has to prevail. And we keep hearing talks. I guess this is mainly for our international community who aren't exposed to New Zealand media. We keep hearing talks at government level about whether or not they're going to open a travel allowance between New Zealand and Australia once we both reach a certain level of quarantine. And while I believe both Jacinda Ardern and Scott Morrison have entertained the idea, what I keep hearing is when we're ready, maybe.
Yeah.
But we're not ready. So, and with what I said on the first stream, and I guess what we've been yarning about as we started this stream, Laserforce is an international community and it's an international family, and we're not going to host a national tournament or international tournament without our full family in force. And if the Americans can't get here, I don't think we'd ever go so far as to call it Nats without them. No reason we couldn't hold, say, an Anzac-style tournament, but it wouldn't be Nats.
Well, back in the day, we used to have, like, nationals used to be Australia and New Zealand. And then I think the US had their own tournament scene as well. Right. And it wasn't really until, I think, 2010, somebody correct me if I'm wrong, but like in 2010, we made the jump to come over on the semi-regular. And I think like the Brisbane guys had a massive part to play in that because I think they went to I think they traveled to like 3 US tournaments in a row.
Wow.
Chula, Syracuse, and Loveland, I think. I can't remember off the top of my head. But yeah, it would be weird to kind of go backwards. Yeah. So I would be keen to either host or travel to something trans-Tasman because in the like you say in the interim that's probably the easier way. Nobody wants to go to America.
I don't think the Americans want to be in America at the moment.
Yeah, just move down here as soon as your borders open, or as soon as our borders open, just move down here.
Just come to New Zealand. We're all good here.
It's easier. One quick thing: forgive the isolation growth.
That's good.
This is all I can muster. This is like 3 months. Nothing here. All here. All on the neck. Don't be jealous.
No, you're all good. So I mean, we'll entertain the possibility of doing something Anzac once both governments announce some kind of travel where you don't have to be stuck in isolation for 14 days, hopefully. And obviously we'll discuss that with both the Brisbane and Melbourne guys and any, if anyone who wants to come from Perth, who played in the Aussie titles, wants to join us, we'd absolutely entertain anyone. To our wider community, to our American and European players, we obviously need to wait until full sort of international travel reopens. Sorry to our American players, but until your country kind of sorts its stuff out, and I know you guys aren't responsible for that. I've been following DK's kind of daily quarantine updates, and I see that particularly in California, common sense does seem to be reigning, and you'll forgive me for not understanding how the government actually works in the States because it's so complicated between state, federal, and whatever else you have. But it seems like California, for the most part, has its head screwed on straight, even though a lot of the rest of the country is falling apart. So we understand that it's not your guys' fault that the States is going the way it is, but until the New Zealand government says, yes, Americans can travel here without spending 2 weeks in isolation, then that's the date we're waiting for before we start re-entertaining the idea of hosting a full international tournament. So I
blame Fuku. That's who I blame.
Fair enough. Right. Well, that's enough. That's enough depressing talk. Let's go into some of the more exciting stuff. So you'll be excited to know that even though we have announced that 2020 has been cancelled / postponed / not happening, work is still going on the background for all the telemetry stuff. So let me just flick this over.
Just before you get into it, I mean, set it up or whatever, but massive shout out to you, bro, for everything that you and Matt and Russ and anyone else, sorry if I am ignorant, but anyone else that's had a hand in what's happening, because it's really awesome, really, really awesome. It makes it such a, I guess that the whole point was to make it more viewer friendly, right? It's made it really, really awesome, so well done.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it. Okay, so I flipped back over to Visual Studio, which I'm sure people are getting now used to looking at.
Sir.
Changing things up a little bit this week. I've loaded some extra features in via OBS, and this is about as close to what the full stream will actually look like. So you'll have to forgive me for the videos that are running at the top. I obviously don't have live camera feeds that I can pull from. It is just the same video running 3 times, but it'll at least give you an idea of what the layout looks like. So let me fire it up and do what I normally do, which is give you guys a couple of minutes just to have a look through all the changes that I've made. Let me pop that out of the way. I'll talk about that later. And let me fire these ones up.
Look at them videos.
There we go. Shout out to Nate. Ninja Jack for creating that title sequence for that video.
Yeah, it was dope.
And someone say something in Twitch chat to get me really excited. I'll see if this works. silence from Twitch. There we go. Thank you, Scott. I assume that's Scott. Oh, it came through.
Say something.
Oh.
No. We're gonna like let you like awkwardly sit in silence for a little while.
Yeah, that's awesome. Okay, it's difficult to read on mine, but I'm looking at the OBS preview. I should probably actually look at the Twitch stream and see. Oh yeah, I'll have a fiddle with font size and alignment, but that's cool. So Twitch chat's now coming through. We've got the 3 placeholder videos for where the cameras will feed from, and you've obviously got my and Steve's faces in the top right, which will be the face cam for the commentators. There's a slight delay in posting until, yeah, probably because it's got to go from Twitch chat into the stream and then get streamed back out. Yeah, I think there's like a low latency mode I can enable, but I will look into that as a lower priority item. But anyway, so let's talk about the changes that have been made this week. So as I sort of promised last week, the combat system has now gone in, and it's been separated from the resupply system. We're currently running in what's called chronological mode. So this is where basically the events are coming through as they happen, pretty much in real time. The way I originally envisaged it, and Steve, I'd love to hear your thoughts on this, is to have it look like this instead. So this is ordered by team and by position within that team. So rather than looking through the list and being like, okay, here's the last, I think it's 12 things that have happened, you can instead consider it more like a snapshot of the last 10 seconds of the game. What do you think of it, Steve?
So I personally struggle with this mode, mostly because like if you see, because it's done, because it's split out the teams, you can see there that like when me and Mr. Doom traded shots, it's split it out into 2 separate areas. So from that aspect, it's quite hard to see who's mutual to each other at a glance. So for me, like, and it is quite a bit different to what we're used to, and anytime there's change, me included, people have a hard time with that. So out of the 2, I do prefer the chronological order a little better because it is more like what we used to. Yeah, that's I do like the other way better. This way's a little hard for me. Maybe my brain's wired a little different, sure. or maybe yours is. I'm gonna blame you.
Yeah, fair enough. It's cool that you bring up personal preference, because that's probably the biggest highlight about what's changed this week. So if you'll forgive me, I'm just going to turn the top video feeds off. They're not that exciting to look at for now. And I'm going to flick in a very plain looking window. But as this gets expanded, it'll have a lot more information in it. And this is the commentator's console. So
pay attention, Scott. This pertains to you.
Yeah, Scott, this is all you, buddy. So if you imagine yourself sitting in the commentator's booth at Auckland, which is basically just behind our front desk, on one screen you'd be looking at essentially what we have on screen at the moment. Hang on, I'll just move that out of the way. So it would look like that with the cameras running up the top. And then this window here that I've dragged in would basically be sitting on a separate monitor. So for those of you who are used to running dual screens, this will just run full screen side by side. And so this gives you the commentators, or if we've got enough people, the technical support person, the ability to change what we're looking at on screen. So you'll see the event feed, which we've just been talking about. So chronological, which is the mode we have it in now, and then I can just simply change it to grouped, and it changes how it displays. There will be a third option that I'll implement at some stage, which is the original format, which is basically what we currently have on the current scoreboard, where you just get the events firing through all in just the order they happen, regardless of what type of event they are.
Is there a way to add a heading like next to combat or something that tells you what mode you're in?
Yeah.
I don't know if that, because like if I look at it, if I stare at it for long enough, I can figure it out. But like at a glance, if it changes, or if it's in one mode and then you change it, like you can actually visually see a cue to tell you that it has changed.
Sure, yeah. I'm writing that down right now.
Boom.
Boom.
Making changes.
Yeah. Right, so I'll work my way up the list. So you will have been getting used to the MVP stats. We can now change them. So I've added 2 more. So the most accurate players in the game so far. So Kamikaze, Rich.
Before you get into stats, Scott asked the question on the stream about new drops.
Appear as a combat event. They will. I don't believe they're in just yet, but yes, they will appear as a combat event. Although there's no reason I couldn't split them out into their own event. But yeah, combat seems most.
I think like adding another one would be maybe overkill. Yeah.
Okay. Yep. I'll add the nukes in. I think missile. I haven't put missile locking in because I actually don't see it as that helpful. It'll be in the original format, but yeah, I'll put the nukes in.
I suppose I suppose with missiles, it is interesting to see when people miss them.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Misses and hits will definitely go in there, but locking seems
right.
Seems like a bit of an odd event, but I'm happy to debate that with people.
Right.
Yep, so most accurate at the moment. Rich sitting on the top there at 96.3. It's pretty good accuracy for a heavy.
Fourth.
What are you doing, mate? You're dropping the ball 84%.
Useless.
I'm not even in the top 5, so I'm dead.
Don't worry about it. Yeah, that'll be why.
I'm also ammo. So in fact, we can now switch that to bottom accuracy. It'll take a second to reload. It's got to wait for the next game event to come through before it goes. So as predicted, ammo at the bottom of the time sheet. Although 66%, so still landing 2/3 of the shots. So, I think most of us average about 80 to 85% across all 5 classes. So
this is such a dope training tool to to real time see how your guys are performing during a game. If I could go back and watch the tape on certain games and find out, okay, we got our asses whipped, where did it go pear-shaped, I can pinpoint whose fault or what. No, I can pinpoint who needs some coaching.
And further down the track as well, the ability to actually run this stuff as a replay engine. So instead of just watching it in real time, you can be like, okay, let's just watch it from the 5-minute mark onwards, or let's rewatch minutes 10 through 8 a couple of times, kind of thing. So, and I know Russ is really excited about that kind of stuff. So
hell yeah, that's cool.
Russ, you'll be hearing from me sometime in the near future as I get closer to that point in time. So probably the commentator's console is the biggest change, but probably the most work that's gone into this week is the scoreboard. And I know, Steve, I've kind of sold you on the new scoreboard, but I know when I initially started these conversations, which were probably back in, I want to say late last year, when I said I was going to look at changing the telemetry for Nats, you were a bit kind of, can we fall back on the original stuff if this doesn't work mentality? And I was kind of like, everything will be available in original format if that's what if people want that and people don't like the new stuff, that's all cool. So a format that I'm sure everyone's going to be very familiar with is this style scoreboard. So this is about as close to replicating what we currently have as you can get. I'm sure no one watching the stream will not recognize, God, that's a terrible double negative. Everyone watching the stream should recognize what we're looking at now.
Nobody ain't no shit.
I can good England.
Look, the difference between the two, and I think part of it is and I can already speak for myself. I struggle with change, especially with Laserforce, because again, once you get used to a certain way, changing that really bugs me. So this whole process, I've had to make sure that I limit I don't like it to a minimum, and give it some time. So after a certain amount of time passes, I go back and I look at it again, and I'm like, okay, so what things do I like, don't I like, blah blah blah. Anyway, the changes that you've made from this to what it is now, this is so much better. there's so much interesting information here, and laid out now in a way that's relatively easy to follow. If you have no idea how Space Marines is played, then you're probably going to struggle.
Yeah.
But like most of the people watching these games are us, and we have a good idea of how the game's played, or at the very least, the basics. You know, you get 5 missiles, you get a certain amount of lives and a certain amount of shots. So being able to see like who a 3-hit is missiled during a game, that's rad. Like how they're utilizing those. You know, the lives counter, the shots counter set out in like visually appealing ways. The downtime, like, and the hit counts, like you can't get any of that information from the regular scoreboard. That's really cool. So I'd be sad to see. I'd be sad if the stream went back to the original scoreboard during a tournament, but having the ability to do that, I suppose, is a good idea. Yeah. Robust missile symbol.
Yep, there is. So, Scott, you might have missed the stream a couple of weeks ago when I added that. So there are 4. There's 4 coloured missiles. Green means you hit something worth points to you. Yellow means you whooshed it. Red means you hit your own team. And the purple missile of destiny means you hit your own medic. and yes, we are going to have a trophy for that at Nats. And Brilliant. I've already seen Ron, Mr. Doom, has already sent me images of a missile he's got with the right coloured paint to be able to make this trophy if we need to. So it is happening. I don't know if we've got any games where people have missiled their medics. I think we've only got about 6 medic missiles across all the games we've played, which is a couple of hundred now. And yeah,
I might have to put a few in the sneak.
Yeah.
I love trophies.
Yeah. So it's the purple missile of shame.
Brilliant.
So there are different colours. It's interesting though that you say it might not necessarily be digestible to non-SM5 players because obviously Matt, who was on the stream last time 2 weeks ago, he gives me a lot of feedback sort of through the week as I do little changes, and actually usually as I'm developing in real time. And I tend to stream it over Discord to him and chatting, and people will just randomly drop in from time to time who aren't Laserforce players.
Right.
And we'll watch. What are you working on? What am I looking at? Kind of thing. And like it's interesting hearing someone, I think yesterday, was like, how come the ammo doesn't have a shot symbol? And it's like, well, because they've got infinite ammo. It's like, oh yeah, that makes sense. It's like, oh, what are the little, I think he called them darts. Well, what are the little darts next to the top 2 players? They're like, oh, those are missiles that can be used. He's like, oh yeah, cool, that makes sense. So I think it leads to easier questions to ask than normally get asked when you're looking at this format.
Yeah,
it's so much,
or they wouldn't think to ask them, right?
Yeah. You look at that, and like if you look at the missiles column, it's impossible to know that a scout doesn't have missiles rather than they just happen to use all of them.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, you couldn't look at that scoreboard and determine which classes do and don't have missiles, except for the fact that you know a commander in a heavy has them because they've got more than 0. Same thing, like ammos always have 15 shots on the scoreboard, and you know you could just assume that the ammos aren't shooting anyone. So
yeah,
I think it's lending itself quite nicely in a way to not only making the game easier to understand, but for people to making their own inferences about how SM5 is actually played. And I think that's kind of the main goal I was trying to hit. This game has finished, so let me just spin it back up again.
To the top, people.
Yeah. From the top. And it's a terrible game for us as well, so I always seem to pick games where I've played terribly. The first game I ran, I had a terrible commander game. This game, I get eliminated early. It's just...
I see what you're doing. You're lulling, the wider community to a false sense of security.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm going to play Commander like Rusty at Nats. Six nukes, 100 was it 120 special points?
I think I think like generating a line of questioning is good. Whereas the other scoreboard, someone might look at it and just like dismiss it.
Yeah,
because they can see the score, and in a lot of people's mind, when you're playing a game of laser tag, that's the only important information.
Yeah,
is why did you do so bad? Like, why is your score so terrible? So, well, because I'm a medic. I'm not really a points getter. Yeah, which is good. I think the flip side of that is if a person is asking the questions, there needs to be somebody there that can answer them, right? And so if you happen to stumble across the stream and you're looking at this, some people would probably just be like, I don't know what the fuck any of this means. But to be fair, like, it's not really for them, right? Like,
yeah, that's true.
I would imagine this is more for people, again, who play, but for people who are interested in playing, you can actually, point out some the interesting parts of, the interesting points of a Space Marines game.
Yeah. It's interesting as well, and I totally agree with you. This is for sort of us to digest. I mean, the part of it that I was most surprised by was how much value I see in the missile tracker. And thank you to Traj, I think, made the suggestion to put that in, and so thank you for that. The thing that surprised me the most that got suggested that I thought I'd never hear suggested was not ordering the players by score. Because if you look at the original scoreboard, you'll see that everyone gets, within the team, everyone gets ordered from highest score to lowest score. But on the new scoreboard, you're actually more interested in comparing the commanders to each other and the heavies to each other. And you kind of realize that it doesn't matter what the medic score is compared to like the other team or to your own team's scouts, because like either they're at the bottom or they've got the bases and they're early and they're near the top. It's mostly just the team's score as a comparison. So it's like, for me, that was a change where I thought, oh, no one's gonna go for this. I'm gonna put them in this order, and everyone's gonna be like, put it back. The person with the highest score should be on the top. And it's so I kind of like the fact we're going down this road of let's just make changes and see what people think. I mean, the combat tracker has obviously got a lot of personal preference built into it, but that's why this commentary console, because first and foremost, the scoreboard is for the commentators, right?
Yeah.
Because Scott and if you can make it down for 2021, Wolfman and anyone else who jumps behind the desk, they're the ones who communicate the information on screen to the stream. So it'll be whatever they prefer. If they like to look at accuracy or MVP, and if they prefer the events done by grouping rather than chronologically, then they can set it up however they feel. And there'll be lots of additional stats. This screen will grow massively in the coming weeks and months. And then secondary to that is how the stream like to have it preferred. So when we do switch out from this, what I call main mode, into camera mode, I'm going to have to produce a condensed version of all this information so that we can still read it and understand what's happening in the game.
Do you mean like when let's go see what happened in Disco and the camera goes into full screen?
Yeah. So let me shove that out the way and bring the cameras back in. So you can imagine if, say, this, I have to do this by reference. Oh, you can't even see my mouse. This middle camera here, let's say there was a lot of stuff happening, let's say upstairs. Let's say the green heavy has gone for an attacking run upstairs and you want to switch to this middle camera. The way I foresee it is that this will take place of the scoreboard section sitting here, and I'll find a way to produce a condensed version of the scoreboard that might sit, say, over here instead.
Right.
I can't display the same level of information because the text is going to get too small to read, but I might at least be able to have player name, lives, shots, and score.
I think that would probably be enough, especially because normally in Space 5 game, you can watch an attacking run, and it might last, I don't know, 20 seconds. If somebody goes in and flushes a resupply, that attacking run might only be about 20 seconds. And so like it doesn't have to, like, people can take a break from watching the scoreboard to watch that one piece of interesting action and then go back. Like, so it doesn't need to be super in depth. Like I said, it might only need to be player name, score, lives, and shots.
Yeah. But that was definitely, that was the one thing I noticed. And I mean, full credit to the guys who ran the Aussie titles. I don't mean to take away from the effort they put in.
They killed it, man. It was so cool.
Yeah, but as SM5 players, we were all basically, like, when they switched to camera-only mode, we were like, scoreboard!
Yeah. I think also, and they said it during the streams, that their cameras were set up for Force Field or whatever whatever that game's called. And they were in positions where you wouldn't hold a resupply, and so therefore there was nothing really happening there, or nothing of importance anyway.
Yeah.
But like, if you can get a top-down view of like this footage that's on camera now in Disco, that is a high traffic area, and I think from memory there's a camera that will be pointed to see where light was looking out into the base. There's a camera looking back at him, or at least there will be, and then one on the other side of Disco as well, I think, sort of the top-down view. And so actually watching that stuff is interesting, because you can watch a resupply get their asses handed to them, or whatever. But yeah, like we have a good idea of the high traffic, interesting spots in our maze, so we can position the cameras a little better. But I think people will be more interested in seeing what's on the scoreboard, because that's where most of the information is. Well, that's where all the information is coming.
Pretty much. So those watching on Twitch, I'll be interested to know what people think of the updates this week, particularly the combat system. Is there a preference towards, so we're currently running in grouped mode versus chronological mode? Do people have a preference? Suggested changes? What do you think of the stream layout?
Oh man, I'm gonna go back and watch all the YouTube videos. This is dope. They were so cool, so much fun to do as well.
The videos.
Yeah. I think we, like, when we're allowed to, we should watch, like, we should film some Gen 8 ones, because these are a couple years old now, I think, these videos.
Scott said group will take some getting used to.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
It's for me, like I said before, like for me, it's probably because I'm more used to seeing. But I think also, like, seeing it in the chronological order means you can see in real time what is happening step by step.
Yeah.
And that in my head makes a lot of sense. There was also, so I'm not sure if you explained it. Maybe I tuned out and wasn't listening properly. But you've got next to the combat the ×1.
Yep.
Did you explain that?
No, I didn't go through it, because that's likely a feature that will get chopped and changed out. But essentially, it is condensing the same events that have happened within the last 10 to 15 seconds down into a single line. Because with the current scoreboard, I think you can fit something like 33 lines into that space. Whereas I'm working with 12, so I need to find a way to condense information. So it's basically like, if you're a scout and you go and tap the commander 3 times, instead of getting 3 separate lines, you'll simply get scout hit commander ×3.
Right. Like, because I think when you showed me it, like say in that instance, no, it'll hit hit me twice there, you can see, although one's a reset. So will it have, if it's going to get chopped, it doesn't really matter. I'm just thinking out loud.
Yeah, no, that's cool.
I can't remember if it moved back into in chronological order, if instead of having GuyNextDoor hits Demihawk 3 times, or it would be the other way because I'm the heavy. But did it have ×3 and then it moved it to the most recent?
It doesn't, but it will.
Right, okay. Because I think that makes a bit of sense, because if it just keeps going up the ticker but then just it just changes the number, that's a little hard to follow, I suppose.
Yeah, so it will. It's something that's on my list of things to do, hopefully before.
He's so lazy.
It's a lot of freaking coding getting this stuff done. Like the scoreboard, the original scoreboard, even though I know exactly how it works and I have an exact design to follow, that took 4 or 5 hours.
Ugh. Yeah.
Most of it's just lining everything up to get it to look nice and getting all the events to fire. You'd be surprised. Like, I have a newfound appreciation for what the guys at Laserforce HQ do for coding the game, because, man, like, the part of the code base that handles how to resolve every different event, and I think there's like 47, 48 different events that can happen, and having to process what each one does is behind the scenes code crash. Having to process what each one does. Like, if I asked you what each event did, you'd be like, yeah. It's because I'm running in debug mode. It's my own fault. I should take it off. It's the new scoreboard that's actually messing things up.
Fuck you, new scoreboard.
Sorry, it's the old scoreboard. Yeah, the original scoreboard. Yeah, because like you think about like popping a resupply, say as an ammo, like a boost resupply. You're like, sweet, but what does it actually do under the hood? And it's like you have to think about it, right? Because for every player on your team, yeah, who's not eliminated, yeah, who is activated, yeah, who's not on the maximum, yeah, give them a specific amount of the thing you just boosted. And you're just like, if you just think about dropping a boost as an ammo medic, it's simple. But when you actually come to code all this stuff, it's just like, it's wonderfully complex. And yeah, I mean, it's been a great challenge, but I definitely have a newfound appreciation for Paul and Chris and the rest of the guys who put the software together, because I mean, and they have to worry about doing it in like as real time as possible, right? Because we need the game to respond. They've got to deal with stuff like, if you get hit, turn the suit off. I don't even have to worry about that kind of stuff. So yeah,
get a boost whilst the opposition is nuking.
Yeah. Hello from Germany. The evening there. So guten Abend.
Oh, smooth.
Yeah. Well, I did like 10 years of German through intermediate and high school, so I'm pretty rusty, but I can still hold a few phrases. So awesome to have some German players joining us. That's wonderful. Wonderfully complex. Yeah, Scott. That sounds like most programming. And as a programmer, if you can't describe it as wonderfully complex, you're probably in the wrong job.
It's interesting. You've made something that's like, to me, incredibly dull and boring sound poetic and beautiful. Parser.
This game's about maybe we'll load a different game in, because I'm kind of over watching myself die 8 million times. As I quickly.
So you'd be used to it by now.
Yeah. I've played with you often enough. I've learned to take it in stride.
Savage.
So let's just grab a different game.
Stop dying, then.
Probably. It was a training night. It's
a training night.
It's training night.
It's training. Don't worry about it. Look over there.
Get good. Yeah, well, I'm trying to get good, Scott. It's a work in progress. I don't think you appreciate how tough it is facing a team.
Well, you guys are technically A team according to your scoreboard.
Yeah. Well, that's hard coding gone wrong. But honestly, between G being unbreakable as a heavy and Joe's ability to absolutely decimate us as a commander, it's just I mean, Rich is doing an amazing job holding his own as a heavy. I've been super impressed with how well he's been able to hold it.
From him, I'm going to give some props. So like the growth of him as a player from playing at Brisbane as a heavy a bunch of the time. I think he played heavy over there. I can't remember. But the growth of him specifically as a player to how he's been able to perform against us is massive. In fact, like the whole B team have like, improved significantly from, a year ago. Which I suppose comes back to that whole adage of you get better by playing better people.
Yeah.
It's so important. And that's probably like, did he? He played medic in both 18 and 19. Oh, there you go. He should have been playing heavy. But yeah, like that's at the very least, that's the reason why people should go play at nationals. Like if you can go to a tournament, any tournament, you get so much better. I remember back in the day, like watching some of our guys improve. Like I remember Virus, like I went away over the summer. I think I went to Europe for a couple months and I came back and he had gotten insanely better. It was ridiculous. He went from like being a good player to being the best player at Auckland.
Right.
Which really pissed me off because I hate the fact that he was better than me. Sucks. Where's your lockdown podcast? You know what? Like, probably the next one we'll be talking about like the fact that nationals isn't happening. But since the lockdown, I've been very unmotivated to do anything, including record a podcast. Mostly because I don't know. It's things that are happening at the moment are so heavy that like they just like sap me of all my motivation to want to be cheery and stuff on a microphone with prison company excluded. But I am keen to record something soon with the boys. It's just we don't have anything to talk about. Well, I mean, we do.
Just have a yarn, I think. Like people, I mean, part of the reason I set up this stream was to help save myself from, withdrawals, and judging by the stream numbers, it's brought some enjoyment to a few other people. So, I mean, just have a yarn, talk about old stories, talk about stuff you love, what you're looking forward to in the future.
And like, whilst I love doing that, because I love doing that. It's whether or not people care enough to want to listen to it. Because there's only so many times you can hear me like, talk about the same thing before you're just like, oh, dude, shut up. You're so boring. But to be fair, like I mostly record these podcasts for me, and then other people tend to dig them too. So,
and I think that was your comment to me when I pitched doing the stream was you don't necessarily do the podcast for other people first. You do it for yourself first, and if people enjoy it, then that's cool. So
yeah. And obviously it is like gratifying when people take an interest in the stuff that you're talking about. But first and foremost, like you've got to want to do it, right? Like it's got to be interesting to you. Yeah, for the most part they are. I do like, so Small and Small was I think on the last one or the one before it, one of the recent ones. Shout out in the chat. Yeah, so I do like how it's motivated us to reach out and talk to people outside of Laserforce tournaments, because I try and make a point of like talking to as many people as I can at tournaments, because I'm generally interested in meeting them and knowing them. But yeah, doing that outside of a tournament is really interesting. So yeah, that's been one cool aspect of doing the pods.
So let me be a good stream host here, Steve. So if people wanted to catch up on old episodes or hopefully find new episodes, where would they find the podcast?
So if you go to the Laserforce Tournaments YouTube page, we upload all of the pods on there, and we also put them up on Spotify. So just search for the Resupply on Spotify. You should be able to see my face in the thumbnail. I think we've got I think from episode 13 is up on Spotify. I should go back and put up the really first ones. Listening to those ones, because they were like back from 2017.
Wow.
Is that right? When was Sacramento? 2017? Last year was Detroit.
2018 was
Brisbane. 2017 was Sacramento.
Is that the one that's got like the castle interior?
Yeah.
So 2017 was Sacramento.
So yeah, I think those were the first ones that we did, was the lead up to that nationals.
Crazy.
And it kind of spawned out of doing. I can't remember if we did the live pods there or not. We did live pods there, but I can't remember if those were the first ones. But yeah, listening to those is pretty interesting, because there's some comedic gold. But yeah, maybe we should really do some recording again.
Yeah, for sure. I know I've been missing them.
Every time that we talk about Laserforce, though, I get the itch, and like all of this is like awesome, but also painful.
Yeah. It's kind of scratching the itch, but at the same time, we are making ourselves bleed. So,
wow, you're on fire today. You're strangely poetic this morning.
Yeah, it must be something in the water here.
Yeah, weed. I said to you before, like I do have a couple of like home laser tag sets that if I can convince my wife to like play laser tag with me in the front yard, maybe we'll do that.
And that would be a podcast topic in itself.
Yeah, we'd definitely stream that one. It'd be me like running around the cars in our yard, and her just standing on the step shaking her head at me.
Yep. Sweet. Well, unless anyone else has got any more. Hang on, I have to say.
Oh
no.
That's
going to hear. Forgive my ignorance of European distances and travel times, but how far is it from Switzerland to the nearest place you can go in Germany? I know, like, as Kiwis, we tend to think that it takes ages to get between places, but I know in Europe, travel can often be
not at the moment.
Quick. What?
I said not at the moment.
Yeah, sure. I mean, in the future. I mean, one of my colleagues at work was there like a year or so ago, and he's like, "Yeah, we did 5 countries in one day." I'm just like, "What?" I mean, when you live in a country where the nearest countries are 3 hours by plane away, and the rest of the world is at least like 7 or 8 hours away by plane at a minimum, we get used to, sort of. It takes a long time to get to other countries, but
like half of our country is separated by ocean.
Yeah, it is.
Social Potwall in the chat. Whereabouts in Germany are you from? Like, what site were you playing out of?
Is there more than one? Because I know Darmstadt,
and then I think there's like 3 competitive German sites. Awesome. I think I could be making that up, but last time we spoke to Marcus, I think. Oh no, didn't I speak to Marcus? I don't think. No, I think it was Than. Than interviewed the Germans after East Coast last year. Whenever they came over, I think that was whenever you saw them. I think they were saying that there's like multiple sites. Same with
awesome.
the UK. They got a
That's
few.
awesome. I love that the international Laserforce scene is growing, and
It's awesome.
I'm super psyched for the concept of a more than 3 country Nats at some stage, hopefully within the next 5 to 10 years. Because I think that would be awesome. I think I'm probably misquoting, but I think Beans may have alluded to something big in the works. I'm sure that's gone on hold with the current pandemic, and I don't have any more information than that. I'm not being deliberately sly, but I think he's got something in the works for something on an international level. I'm super excited to hear what that might look like and how that might evolve.
Oh yeah, from Darmstadt, but
about 3 hours to travel, right?
Yeah, that's quite a distance.
A long time. Yeah.
I gotta say the chat feed zooming in on the scoreboard is really awesome.
Because glad I got that working.
Yeah. So you get like a visual cue of like, oh, people have
said something. Yeah.
Yeah. What was I gonna say? What are we talking about? This is why I can't do live video for the podcast. It's hard to self-edit.
Yeah.
Shit, I was gonna say something. I don't remember what it was. It's probably not important.
Okay. Well, we're nearing it on an hour, so unless anyone has any last-minute questions or feedback, as always.
That's some questions, folks. I want to stay like talking about Laserforce for as long as possible.
Unfortunately, I've got my family heading my way in about half an hour. So, yeah. Although you've met my brother, he came down and played with us a couple of times. He's not so keen on how uber competitive it gets at the SM5 level, but I think he enjoyed the games he did play.
Was Steve your old man, or
Steve is my wife's dad.
Oh yeah.
But my dad came down a couple of times to play.
Right.
You would have met him.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I try and drag anyone and everyone in to play Laserforce that I can. I'm just like, have you heard of Laserforce? They're like, no. I'm like, good, come with me.
What a pusher.
Yeah. So we got many sites with teams, but there are just 2 sites who are playing SM5. The most teams are playing in LF-AKL mode, completely different to SM5. Oh, okay.
Is that more of a zone mod, I suppose, is what I'm looking for, right? That's the word.
I'm guessing so, because it's not one I'm familiar with.
Yeah, I think it's only a matter of time. I think that the real question will be when Space Marines catches on, because with the type of growth that we're seeing, or the type of integration of like the European sites into like what we have at the moment, more and more people will play Space Marines, or there are a bunch of people that are already playing Space Marines. The real thing is whether or not the 2 scenes will eventually join because of the fundamental differences between the rule sets and the playstyle. That's the from what I can tell, that's the biggest hurdle that will keep the scenes separate, which is a real shame, but I understand it, because if like I've been playing 17 years, and if someone came to me and were like, right, so now you have to play a completely different style than what you used to, and I'd be like, fuck that. Like,
go away.
Why would I do that?
Yeah.
So I understand, even though our way is better.
No, it's more a standard mode, nothing with bases.
Oh wow.
Okay. That's interesting.
Got to get on the SM5 buzz, yo.
Yeah. I mean, Steve is going to probably dispute this, given how I tend to be one of those, we're not playing SM5? I might just sit out for a game and take a break. Yeah. I'm absolutely one of the worst people for that. But, particularly when I saw like the Aussie titles on, I'd actually be fairly keen to run a tournament, or to participate, let me say. I'd be keen to participate in a tournament format where we got exposed to maybe some game modes that we don't play, like the zone ones. And I know there's this whole Laserforce versus zone thing, but I'd actually be real keen to kind of go back and almost learn laser tag again. Like, we've gotten so deep into SM5 and we know it. I mean, you know it far better than I. But, I'd love to try like this new game mode, like, whatever LFL is, and and the zone modes that they play. I'd be keen to give it a go. Yeah, we play enough D&D
We play a
at
lot of
Auckland.
D&D.
we play a lot of D&D. Yeah.
On that note, so back in the day, when you used to get only 6 teams come to a nationals, there was not the same timing constraints that you get when you know, double the number. So before the Space Marines tournaments were played, they used to play Masters. They used to have a Masters tournament, and I think in 2002, Auckland had a D&D tournament.
Oh wow.
Somebody older than me might be able to confirm that, but they had a D&D mini tournament or something, and like that stuff sounds pretty cool, but with timing constraints, it's really hard to do that at a Space Marines tournament. I know that you had some plans for this year where we were going to go actually play like a mini tournament in one of the other local tag sites. Which would have been really cool, because that would have been almost or as close as like neutral ground as you can kind of get, because we don't really play there that often. And somebody did, sort of bring up about playing SM4 as a tournament, separate from SM5, which again would be kind of cool with some tweaking, because like heavy in SM4 is broken.
Oh yeah,
it's ridiculous. If I played today for the lottery, if I win $90 million, I'd build the best laser tag arena in the
world. we're all for that. Yep.
Yeah, absolutely.
I know a guy who can do the telemetry system for you as well.
What you want to do is you want to start 2 and develop a massive rivalry. That's what you want to do. Which that would be kind of cool if we had the opportunity to do that, is to build a player base at the other Laserforce site and develop a local rivalry. That would be, because we have surprisingly 3 Force sites in Auckland, and the ours is kind of the flagship store, and we're the only one that has a regular members base as far as I'm aware. I know Heathen talked about for a while starting
the botany
something.
One.
Yeah. I don't know how that kind of went, but that would be kind of cool.
Yeah, we'll have to see post quarantine once we come out of level 1. Where we can take things. Anyway, I'm hitting the end of my time limit, so thanks for joining me today, Steve.
Thanks for having me, bro. It's been fun.
Thanks to everyone in stream who's joined us. As always, if you've got comments, feedback, suggestions, feel free to chuck them either on the post in Laserforce tournaments or hit me up privately on Facebook. Don't mind either way. This should go up on YouTube probably sometime tomorrow, given I'm pretty booked for the rest of the day. But yeah, I'll
so lazy.
That guy, right? Well, given that you're here, can I get you to do the outro for me?
Always remember to backtrack, kids. We will see you next. Well, he will see you next week.
Thanks, man. See you guys.
Peace.